and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we call the meeting, call to order our Jefferson County Local Development Corporation monthly meeting, May 1st, 2025 already. Privilege of the floor. I think we have a guest, unless you want to speak now as well. Okay, no one else, so we'll move to the minutes, page 3, if they've been reviewed, and if so, motion to accept them.
So moved.
We have first.
Second, Rob.
Second, any other discussion, corrections, or comments? Barring any, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Page 7, Paul.
Well, good morning. There's not a lot that jumps out at me on the treasurer's report. The month over month on the balance sheet looks acceptable and where we'd expect it to be, but I had a couple questions that came up when I reviewed things again this morning of Lyle. Under the marketing program, we didn't budget anything for workforce development or event sponsorship or in the ags for the dairy parade, and there were expenses this month. And I just wondered, is there an error that we didn't budget a line item for those?
I'd have to look, Paul. I
Okay.
thought we did.
I mean, the expenses weren't dramatic, but I would have thought we show the current year budget is 0 for workforce development, and that's a lot of what we do.
Yeah.
So,
And event sponsorships, we have, probably,
and the dairy
10,000
parade's
coming
in
up.
there too is 0, and that's something we've done since longer than I've even known this organization.
Yeah,
It's been around.
The dairy parade, if I could speak to that, that would be on my shoulders. We typically get sponsors to cover those costs, or we'll move money from the annual meeting. If there's money left from the annual meeting, we'll move that over to help with those costs.
I'm not concerned about the cost. I'm concerned, normally you budget an appropriation and then estimated revenues from those things.
Theoretically,
It just caught,
it's under advertising. You put dairy
Well, I understand that,
Yeah,
but
no.
just something to look at when we do the budget.
I had the same comment about manufacturing, because I think it came up last year, the 7,500, we always seem to under budget and overspend. Not that it's a bad thing,
sure,
but just make it 10 or 12,000
Yeah, cover
next
it.
year and cover all these miscellaneous things.
Other than that, everything seems in line with expectations in all the programs, and I would move the treasurer's report.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, barring any, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? The treasurer's report carried. Committee reports, Jay, that's you starting.
Oh, okay.
Marshall.
Don't move too fast.
I don't know whose number it is.
All right.
And who is this?
Do you want me to go there?
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead,
Please do, sorry.
Okay, so I'll start on agriculture. I have two different reports today. I'll start on agriculture. As everybody is aware, immigration has been a huge issue impacting workforce in agriculture across the state, across the nation. And certainly we've been involved in it here in Jefferson County. We're actually a little bit involved behind the scenes. I try to minimize the involvement, but we certainly have an important voice to offer in trying to make things happen in developing a farm guest worker program. Ron Robbins and I have been involved in leading a group of people that are concerned that nothing's happening on this, and it needs to happen. So that has been interesting to be involved in behind the scenes, minimizing involvement, but it's just not impossible to not be part of it. To that end, a lot of people have questions. If anybody is interested in attending this, I'd be happy to have you come as my guest. I'm a member of the Watertown Rotary Club, and on June 4th, I have Dr. Richard Stupp from Cornell University. He is the ag workforce person for Cornell University. he'll be coming up to speak to the Rotary Club about the whole issue of foreign workers on our farms. Why, what, how, where, all of that. So that'll be a very interesting presentation.
Is that going to be specifically for agriculture, not manufacturing? or
Correct,
anything?
correct. And then on June 11th, I have Alex Walsh. This one will also be interesting, not on the ag workforce end of things as much, but Alex Walsh is the executive director for the Northeast Dairy Processors Association. He'll be coming to the Rotary Club on June 11th to speak about the dairy revolution, dairy processing revolution that we're seeing. So that will also be a very interesting presentation. So Rotary members are going to get back-to-back dairy, some pretty heavy topics, some of them good, some of them not so good. And if anybody does want to attend, again, I'd love to have you as my guest. Just let me know ahead of time.
So, sounds like you're cashing in on favors, which is good. But you said Ron's involved with a group. What is this? Who's involved?
Very informal group, and I don't want to say too
No.
much.
Yeah.
Just that because of this is not just a Jefferson County or a New York State issue. We're talking with commissioners of agriculture. We're talking with leaders in the agricultural industry throughout the Northeast to try and work on getting somebody to make something happen behind the scenes. And just as an example, I had 3 phone calls the day after the Chobani announcement from farms saying, Jay, how do they expect us to expand milk production when we're facing the workforce issue that we're facing? Those are phone calls I received. So moving on from that, really excited about what we see. I talked about this briefly last time, the dairy processing revolution, the opportunity for farms to grow here in New York State because of that increase of 7 billion pounds demand for milk over the next 3 years. It is an opportunity not just for where the dairy processors locate, but for every farm in the state. So we are excited about that. And we're hoping that we become part of it sooner than later. So we'll see what happens. Dairy parade, working on the dairy parade, way behind on the dairy parade. There's been a lot on the plate this year, more so than ever. So trying to move that along. I'm going to shift, if it's okay, Mr. Chairman, to Marshall has asked me to attend 2 meetings on the micron/semiconductor opportunities. Again, another revolution for New York State. And I do truly, and I will admit, I am somewhat of a skeptic. From agriculture, you always start out as a skeptic first. So I have been a skeptic as to how much opportunity Jefferson County would see out of this. But I do believe we need to position ourselves. And I know that those efforts are happening to take advantage of this. The first meeting that I attended was with Ryan McMahon at the County Board of Legislators meeting. Very impressive gentleman. Was interesting to hear the experience he had in getting Onondaga County positioned for Micron. It was a lot of work, and some of the lessons he shared with us about needing properties, sites to offer was critical, and I'm hoping that we're able to do that here in Jefferson County. Workforce development is going to be important to take advantage of that. And there's roles for all of the agencies and our educational institutions to play in preparing that workforce. Things as simple, and this came, Marshall also asked me to attend a presentation by the Go Semi Task Force, I guess I'll call it. This is from Empire State Development. It's their people, it's their program that they've put in place to help grow the semiconductor industry across the state. And that was also very valuable. I sat in on the site development subgroup, had a lot of conversations. Eric Wagner, city manager for Watertown, was there. Development Authority was involved in that group. And one of the things that I took away is establishing, and I don't know how well we have it established, so forgive my ignorance on this, that conduit to the Go Semi group with Empire State Development, and getting information back to them about sites and resources that we have. I was talking with Eric Wagner about the Jane Irrigation Building. You know, that could be a well-suited facility for one of these businesses, just as an example. Something that caught my attention that I hadn't even thought about was, for example, the thousands and thousands of construction workers. I grew up, for those that don't know, in the town of Scriba, 4 miles from the nuke plants when they were building them. And I remember the daily traffic of hundreds of construction worker cars going by my house for each shift going to the nuke plants while they were under construction. We're facing, well, Onondaga County is facing that. We can be one of those end destinations if we prepare ourselves for those construction workers to find temporary homes. One of the things that was said yesterday is they don't have parking room for all of those construction workers. How will they get there? Well, we potentially have 1 or 2 bus services that, you know, could potentially position themselves to help take advantage of that. It's those small things that we might not be thinking about that are part of that chain that is necessary to meet this opportunity. So I am a little bit more excited about this, still a skeptic, but a lot more excited about the opportunity and what Marshall and Mark and Ryan Pichet and the folks that have been working on this, you know, there's a lot of work to do. We need to move as quickly as possible. And in the end, from my perspective, the investment's worth it, whether it's for Micron or it'll benefit something else that we do. So I'll answer questions. There's a lot of things, so I don't want to go too long here.
Just one question. So we had a solar ad hoc committee or alternative energy meeting. And one of the things we talked about was trying to direct projects to appropriate locations. And as you're well aware, we've all been concerned about ag land usage for solar. And now we have this increased demand for land to meet agriculture needs for these plants. Is that going to increase our concern on solar development on agricultural lands?
Yes, it hasn't been fair that Marshall has sent me to this because it does increase my concern for protecting agricultural land in southern Jefferson County, where our best agricultural lands are. So that's part of the equation, and that's why I appreciate that Marshall has been involving me in this, is that I can also be that person in the front line that says, okay, we need to look at this site versus this site because this is prime ag land and this is marginal ag land. We need to make sure, and I appreciate you bringing that up, Paul, we need to make sure that we balance the two because we have 2 huge opportunities here in New York, dairy and semiconductors. And we need to make sure that we're balancing the needs of both, that we don't step on one to grow the other.
I don't think the demand for solar, if you look at the capacity, and the whole limiting factor is being able to get it out of here. And if you look at all the grid system right now, we're trying to do this for this group. Every 3-phase line in this county, with the exception of 1 or 2, already has a community solar project on it. So all those lines are full, can't handle anymore. Every 3-phase line in the country, in the county, can handle You look at the voltage and the amperage on those. A 20 megawatt solar array energizes those to their capacity. Only room for basically one per line. They're full right now. If you look at them, those 3-phase lines around, there may be 1 or 2 right now that don't have a community energizing. So then you go to the bigger ones, the transmission line that's being built and the ones that are permitted by New York State, they're going to fill that line. So even with the new build out, the projects that are on the ground right now are going to fill the capacity. There's going to be no more room for solar unless they do a major transmission line from the southern part of the county to Oswego. So what you see is what you get right now. We're going to be at capacity.
I understand that.
We have a comment.
Can I jump into what, I apologize.
No, go ahead.
My name is Mark Pilatus, for any of you that don't know me. You guys were kind enough to retain the strategic development specialist, our law firm, to help you with the Micron project. Let me first tell you, Micron's definitely coming. Anybody in this room that doesn't think Micron's coming, and Jay, I know you know it's coming too. Anybody who doesn't think it's coming, you're kidding yourself. Okay? Micron is going to be in Syracuse, New York. Okay? They've talked to the president's staff has said basically we're on board. They may tweak the CHIPS bill a little bit. Micron is coming. Kathy Hochul, ton of money into Micron. Onondaga County, when they're said and done, they're going to have more money into it than you can even fathom. Okay? Micron is coming. So start with that to begin with. Now start with the fact that Micron puts a pin where their building is, and they do draw a 100-mile radius. We are right there. Okay, we are right where we need to be. And what's the 2 things that we're specifically positioned well for? Tertiary supplier, or 2, right? As long as we have the land and have enough acreage. And Ryan was talking about 100 acres site is what you need, but also housing. Do not lose sight of housing. Very, very, very important. Okay, and it's good housing. So when you talk to the building trades will tell you they're going to have 4,500 people working on that project. Okay, we don't have 4,500 building trades with 81 going on, with Turning Stone going on, with everything else going on. So where do those people come from? They come from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. They come from Dearborn, Michigan. They come from Pittsburgh. They come from all over the country, and they come here to do work. So where are they going to live? Onondaga County doesn't have the housing. Okay, I mean, I love it. The house next to me sold 4 years ago for X and sold almost double in March. Okay, our housing prices are booming. So what's next going to boom? You guys. You guys are so well positioned to do this if you think about it. So now you're housing and you're saying, wait a minute, we're in Jefferson County, we're far away from Clay. I live in Manlius, New York. It takes me 30 minutes and like 72 traffic lights to get to Micron. If I live in Adams, it's 40 minutes, right? Is that we decided? 40 minutes, and you know what? You got 2 traffic lights. So nobody's screaming at every person in front of you because you're running late. And it's a straight shot. Now, so just start with that premise to begin with when we're talking about this, okay? And I want to tell you everything we've been doing, because we have a working group. Marshall, do they know about the working group, or should I go into that?
Just do a rundown. Why don't we just we'll cede the time. I was going to cede the marketing time to you, and if it's okay with the chair, why don't we move?
Yeah, we can move
your presentation to now.
Is it, I thought that's you. Because I was chopping. Like when I hear Micron, I'm chomping at the bit.
Yeah,
No,
totally. And that's why I think let's
I
just
didn't
go.
expect you.
Let's go.
And I got my cheerleader right here. She was helping me. So that's good. I was jumping
We're gonna
up.
blame Jay.
Jay,
Jay fired him up.
which is,
We're gonna blame Jay.
you're fired him. But so we have a small working group we're working with. Marshall, Ryan Pichet from the county, Scott Gray, here's something who, by the way, you guys have no idea how lucky you are to have Scott Gray. Okay? Because he works both sides of the aisle. And whether you like the governor or you don't, he has a tremendous relationship with her, but he also has a tremendous relationship with the Assembly Democrats. He works both, and you need that in Albany if you're an Assembly Republican. You're in the minority, and that helps your district tremendously. I know it's not popular up here to say that, but it's good for what you guys want to do, so don't lose sight of that. And then Dan Dupree. from JCC. Did I miss anybody? Oh, yeah, Mr. Chairman, left him for last. And the chairman, Bill Johnson, he
The
comes.
most important.
Exactly.
He's hiding behind me.
Well, that's when Ryan lets him come. To the meetings. And it's good meetings. And we sit around the table, we spend about an hour, 15 minutes, and it's very inclusive. We talk about a lot of stuff, throw a lot of things, and talk about how we can move everything forward. So we've had a number of those core meetings. We try to meet every month, every 6 weeks to do it, but we're constantly texting, constantly talking back and forth throughout it. One of the things that came up is tourism. So when you talk to Greg Lancette is the head of the Central New York and Northern New York building trades. Okay, he's the guy. He's the guy that goes directly to the governor, has the governor's ear. He's the guy, when Micron was on the fence and wanted to come here, they just signed the Green Chips Act. They're sitting in Albany. They're sitting in the I think the blue room, and Kathy Hochul walks in, and the CEO of Micron's in the room, and she says, "You're worried about labor, and you're worried about your labor force and how you're going to be able to afford it, and can you get enough labor here?" And he said, "Absolutely. That's the one thing holding me back from coming to New York." And he said, "I got the labor guy in the room." So I don't know if you know who Rob Simpson is. Rob Simpson is the Center State CEO. Rob Simpson sits up in the room. He's going to be the guy. Everybody's going to be like, "Rob, you're the guy." Kathy Hochul looks at him and says, "Greg Lancette, that's your guy." So he has a great relationship with Micron. He also has a great relationship with the governor. Greg has been very, very strong in helping Jefferson County behind the scenes, talking about different stuff. So one of the things Greg came to us on and says, "Look, I got 3,000 people coming here from across the country. What are they going to do on the weekends? They're going to go back to Tuscaloosa, Alabama and say, this job sucks because there's nothing to do." So what we did, we had a meeting with Corey Fram and we talked about tourism. What can we do as a group to get them up here and expose all these people to Jefferson County and all we have to offer? So we thought about 4 different tourism items. A fishing trip. We take them out in
June 20th is the day in Henderson Harbor for the building trades.
That's fishing.
The fishing trip, yeah.
Yeah, so a fishing trip. Then we talked about a wine tour, because that helps with Jay and his agriculture, right? Then we talked about a family day at Bolt Castle. Okay, because now you have the families up here. Because if you're working here, your family's gonna come visit here. We thought that was very, very important as well. So what we decided was this year, we're gonna try to do a dry run of these things. Because the people aren't coming to work till November, December, January, is when the people from out of town will start coming in. So we have a meeting on May 21st, I think it is, with the building trades, where we're gonna go into the building trades, present what we're doing. We already have very good feedback from them. Travis Flint has been very, very helpful with us interfacing with the building trades, telling them what we wanna do. And we're gonna use their local guys as the guinea pigs, wrong word, as the people this year. So if we have a hiccup, we fix it for the out-of-town people. So we can do that. The other one was Dry Hill. We're gonna do a ski night at Dry Hill. So now you're saying, why are they gonna come on a bus from Syracuse to go to Dry Hill when they could very easily go to Tog, or was it Lab or Tog?
Song,
one of those.
yeah.
You guys have Boo Wells. She'll know how to do it right, and she'll do a great job with it. And then that's what makes a big difference, because she'll make them feel at home, she'll talk to them, she'll cook, etc. And that's very, very important. Where Song is busy getting sued by the Attorney General right now, so not so great, which is good. So that's one thing that we're focused on is the tourism, because we think that's important, because now we're exposing different people.
So they have confirmed a PLA
After
agreement.
Bolt Castle.
All done. The PLA was signed
Yeah.
months, maybe a year ago. Yeah, PLA is all done, totally done. Right now, they're in the process of, I don't think they picked a construction firm yet. I know there were 5 bidders that went in.
Yeah.
And they're narrowing it down, and then they'll go from there. The other thing we worked with was Scott Gray. Scott Gray will literally goes to meetings in Albany. He has an executive summary. I don't know if you saw, it was in the Watertown Daily Times, right? And he basically he gives this out to everybody in Albany. So, which is very positive, and that's been very, very helpful across the lines, because that's educating them as well, especially the governor staff. One of the most important things we're doing is we're working with the county, with Bill, and with Ryan Marshall, about trying to find sites. Unique, good sites without taking away from what you have right now. And it's not just sites for a tertiary supplier. They got to bring in a lot of stuff on their airplanes, and they got to bring a lot of stuff in via boat. a lot of materials. Okay, so your airport is primary positioned, as long as we can get some warehouse space and along those lines there to be one of the places where they come in and drop the stuff, because it's a straight shot down. It's a straight shot down 81. Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority is very well positioned for the ships coming in from overseas, because it's a straight shot down. Now, how does that help Jefferson County? Not a lot of hotels in St. Lawrence County, last I checked. So when you have people coming in where they gotta go pick up the stuff and do things like that, they're gonna be staying in Jefferson County. They're gonna be filling their gas up in Jefferson County. They're gonna be eating in Jefferson County. Should help your sales tax tremendously. We're working on a site map right now. We're not done with it yet. I think when it's done, we should show it to this group that shows all the sites that we can start presenting to different people. So not only the governor's staff, Micron, but also McMahon, but also the site selectors, as we do more with them, to show them what we have to offer. The idea is, we're not gonna get a Micron up here, but if we could get a tertiary supplier, Onondaga County's running out of land. Ryan said this when he was in there. He's like, we're running out of land. So now the question is, what do we do? That's where you guys are primarily positioned for it. Just remember, it's not gonna happen overnight. It's gonna take some time, but the idea is to keep positioning you, and then you go for that. We brought Ryan up to address the Jefferson County Legislature and some of your community leaders. I thought that was very, very helpful. I think it really opened people's eyes. Bill, don't you agree?
Absolutely.
You could see the changes, the people in the room, and it was interesting. In the beginning, they were all like, hey, Ryan. At the end, there was a whole line of people wanting to talk to him about what he said and what he was doing. And he's very much, we've been to Syracuse to meet with Ryan too. That's where we started. Ryan's very much, how do I help Jefferson County? Like, he sees you guys as part of what he wants to do, because he sees it as a very easy fit for what Mike Ron wants, what Onondaga County wants, et cetera, which is good to have that type of cheerleader, because he's flying to Japan. He's flying to, he went to Taiwan. I know he's going to Israel, and he went, I want to say, to South Korea. He's flying to all these places, and he's constantly wooing these different companies. And if it's not a fit in Onondaga County, we slide right in.
The other thing that Ryan said was that agriculture was equally important. Just, I want to note that.
He loves throwing that agriculture stuff in, doesn't he? The other thing we've done is we've tried to expand some of what you guys have. There was an issue with, like, you guys don't have a lot of housing developers up here. So we brought in an architect firm in Syracuse that works with a number of housing developers. They had, I think, a very good meeting with you. You guys are very pleased that you're continuing discussions with them, et cetera, trying to open more doors for you along those lines too. Like, what can we do? Is there sites up here? I think Adams has some good sites that they're looking at along those lines. So the more we can do on that to open different doors, we're trying to do as well. We also reviewed a number of marketing documents that we're trying to put together to entice supply chain companies servicing Micron to locate here. And then the last thing is, we're just going to keep pushing the building trades, because it goes back to what Marshall said. They're running out of housing space down there. You guys have a lot of opportunity up here, but you also have opportunity with the busing. You also have opportunity with the tourism. That's a great place to start until you get a tertiary supplier, until we build another housing tract, et cetera. So you'll start to see some energy, start to see some positive things come out of that. Does that answer? Does that kind of give you a summary of where we're going? Any questions I can answer?
How competitive are the other neighboring counties? In other words, I'm sure that Jefferson County is not the only county that is probably trying to compete for.
No, there's
this
another
business.
county trying to compete as well. But they're not as user-friendly as Jefferson County is. You guys are very fortunate in the team you have up here, to be very honest with you. They check their egos at the door. They don't want to jump out in front. There was a neighboring county that went to a semicon conference in California, and Ryan said to them, hey, let me help you. They're like, we don't need your help. Or versus, we've gone to Ryan and been like, hey, help us. We've gone to Greg and said, help us. You know what I mean? And we want them, it's a win for everybody we're looking for, not just a win for us. So that's been very good. There's other counties that maybe will get some wins and you guys will get frustrated. Play the long game. There's a lot of
This would
opportunity.
be a good work session for city council meeting.
So that's the other thing that came up, is you have a tremendous opportunity with the city. in this as well. You know, you're a very walkable city. I don't know if you guys realize that. Like, that's one thing I'm always impressed with when I come up to Watertown, how easy it is to walk around it and et cetera. And there's things you can do to position it to be very, very, very helpful.
Yeah, I'm actually on city council.
Yeah, no, I
And,
know.
okay, and so I know that the planning department has, over the years, has been focusing on that, whether it's along the river, the trails that
Mhm.
they keep working on connecting, and we do have downtown housing that's going on, like the Globe building, where they're gonna have market rate apartments there, and, you know, so there's a lot of things, positive things that are going on, but I think overall, the public here probably doesn't realize what potential impact there could be, a positive impact with Micron. I don't think people really understand that.
No, I don't think anybody does that down by us either. I think everybody's very skeptical about it, and that's why I started out by saying it's definitely coming. I think no matter where you go, everybody's like, yeah, it's never gonna get built. Because how many times have you heard, like, oh my God, such and such is coming, et cetera. The one thing you guys have up here, we've heard that up here.
What's your
Yeah.
question?
A long time ago. Long time ago.
So one thing you have up here that we don't have, you have a very good newspaper in the sense that the governor looks at the Watertown Daily Times. Whether it was Governor Cuomo, Governor Pataki, Governor Hochul. They all, if there's a story that's worth reading, it gets in her clips. And I know that because I've talked to Alec and each one of those governors said, well, not Pataki, but Cuomo and Hochul have both called and yelling at him over something. So you know they're reading it, et cetera, and it's a very well-read paper in Albany.
Well, that
So when you talk about
explains a lot.
the opportunities for housing development, do you sense that the state of it's Micron related is, I'm talking about regulatory stuff through the DEC and getting sewer speedies permits, sewer approvals and water distribution systems approved, that they're going to not be less restrictive, but not drag things out for years for these developments?
No, so we can help you with that when that time comes. You know, you're not gonna be able to fast track's the wrong word, but they know they have to do certain things to get it done. As they're pushing. Jay?
Yeah, the Region 6 DEC director was at the meeting yesterday, and he encouraged as much as possible to work with DEC in advance of, you know, proposing a project on a site, to get pre-approvals done as much as possible. So it was good because people didn't know that person was there at the table, so it was good. He spoke up and identified
Plus
himself.
you have a new DEC commissioner.
Right.
And the one thing I've heard out of Albany, where she's been really good, DC was notorious for never returning anybody's phone calls for a number of years. She has made it her mission to be like, hey, Marshall, you didn't call Mark back. You need to start to return your phone calls that day. So that's very positive. Right there, you're gonna cut down a lot of time. It's been a very positive reception with her along those lines.
Mark, I'll share two examples that completely endorse everything you're saying. There's a river property in front of me, went up on the market 5 years ago. The guy paid $325 for it. Went on the market a week ago, asking price $599. 3 people got in on it, went to $604.
Right?
5 years.
Yep.
The other thing is have been working for a number of years, ever since solar came to town, on farmland preservation, coupling tax equity funding for funding farmland preservation. Appraiser spent all day yesterday with an appraiser from Mobile, Alabama, who specializes in valuing farmland.
Mhm.
I was hoping to show that the pressure on my case was the highest and best value was gonna come from solar development. What we discovered by the end of the day, the highest value and pressure for evaluating open farmland right now is not solar. It's not solar, it's rural residential housing. 4 acre lots. That's what's gonna start eating up farmland, not solar panels.
Right.
It's already showing up. The speculators are out there right now and the developers. And yeah, they'll be Watertown can build out the Marcy site for, dense, high density housing or whatever. But the real demand, the fast moving ball is going to be rural building lots. Not for double wide trailers, but for $300,000 and $400,000 and $500,000 homes. And those values are coming in at $20,000 an acre. Farmers are gonna start selling land fast and furious in that $10,000 and $20,000 an acre. And it's gonna exceed their opportunity they had with solar.
The
That's
hardest,
a reality right now on the playing field.
right, the hardest part, I think, is we just gotta figure out the sewers.
Sewers?
Sewers in the water.
Well, a 4-acre site can handle a septic
No,
system.
but who's gonna, no, I understand that, but also a lot of people, when they're building it out, when you have people coming from other parts of the country, they're gonna want sewers. So the question is, is that something you're gonna wanna put in? Is that something somebody's gonna wanna pay for, et cetera?
Yeah.
Along those lines, you know what I mean? I know,
Well, that pressure has been in this county ever since Fort Drum expanded. We've tried to do PDRs. And,
Yeah.
Ron had an agreement for, development restriction. He walked away from it because I think he saw the changes in value. So, but
Yeah, go ahead.
it's been a pressure for a long time. I don't think that's anything new for us, that rural residences. Sorry, the people leaving the city to build on the outskirts, that's one of the reasons the town of
Yeah, but I
Watertown is
think
moving.
one of the things which is helpful for the counties, I think you're gonna have some of the people working on the project will probably wanna live up here.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? You guys have great hunting, great fishing, great snowmobiling. Don't lose sight of any of that too. So you guys are a very easy county to live in. You know,
We have great schools too,
yeah,
colleges.
yeah, you do.
Yeah.
That's one thing that's really important. Don't lose sight of that,
And with river property being zero, for the most part, zero inventory, those people are gonna start buying boats. The marina pressure. Think about it, if you can't get your property that you want, the next thing is, well, we'll spend $250,000 for our bigger boat and spend time on the water. And the marinas, if you look at the boat sales from the marinas, it's like they're saying, man, we're looking for a good year. So marina build outs, that's where they need more capacity too.
Anything else? Keep things moving along here.
The other thing I'll just say, people, there's another big development under the radar screen, but it's moving forward, something called a missile defense system.
It was a little off, but in the distance. It's still there. No, I didn't mean off comment. It's off in the distance. It's gonna happen, but probably about 2030 at this rate.
We'll take it. That sounds
No,
good to me.
it would be good to actually happen after a micron build out.
One thing also regarding the housing, there's a couple of spots that we've identified really ripe for housing development in the southern part of the county. And one of them specifically has infrastructure at each one, and as they develop each lot, it just kind of goes a little bit further. So the infrastructure is really well positioned there, and that's a pretty good site for a number of houses.
I'll leave it with one thing. Years ago, there was a countywide water district study done. It was tying all the smaller plants together to create a countywide water district. It might be worth pulling that out and seeing how that would play into it.
Who led
And
that,
there-
Paul?
Huh?
Who led that?
I don't know who led it, but
Yes.
it probably was Dank, would be
Dank
my
would have
guess.
probably likely
But
led
there
it.
was a countywide water survey done, and part of it was like a spider web, so that all the facilities would feed into a centralized distribution. Probably doesn't Syracuse have a countywide water system?
Yeah, Aqua.
Yeah.
And that kind. Marshall, who's the guy from Adams that came to Ryan's thing? Oh, you weren't there. Jay, who's the guy from Adams? There was a guy from Adams that came to Ryan's.
Was it the mayor?
No, it was Keith Perry.
Keith Perry.
Yeah. Is that the mayor? I don't know.
No,
He's
he's on the village board, no.
Yeah.
I thought that was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was very positive, that he came to.
Well, the discussions with the village have been very positive.
And they're really interested in being aggressive in moving forward and calling meetings together. I mean, we loved it. They've been really helpful in what we're trying to do. It's great.
Now, I'll just say the town of Lorraine, just to the south and east, is off limits.
That's where Jay lives.
Okay.
I didn't say that. I thought you wanted to know her.
Yeah,
I control the bridge. That's what I'm telling
Okay, I feel better. Any other questions?
We'll leave some time at the end in case you think of something after our meeting. Or are you meeting right now?
I was gonna leave.
Okay, no, so go ahead then.
Oh, you have a question?
Yeah, I'm really excited that President Duffy's on your kind of team.
He's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What plans does he have for the tourism aspect? As far as the educational side? I mean,
We have not discussed that in our group.
yeah, I think it would be worth discussing. I mean, because if you're thinking about all this tourism and everything else, where does he think college can help out there?
He's very forward thinking. I'm very, very impressed with him. He brings a lot to the table, and he's very, like, he will come up with something, he'll think about it, etc. You'll get an email, or he'll come back to the next meeting and be like, we're gonna do X, Y, and Z. You know, don't you feel that way?
Absolutely, been proactive and helpful. It's funny because from the educational, I think in his mind, he's kind of gathering the facts and how best to react to them. And again, I'm just sort of speculating, but like a tourism certificate program or some sort of undergrad, it hasn't really come up yet.
Right.
And I honestly, I think it's more about, it's been about how to serve the Micron project itself in some ways, but yeah, I mean
that would
it's
help,
great.
that would help the region's community that's living here now.
Yes.
With employment and economic development.
Yeah.
So it's been
Yeah,
off the New York State Tourism.
To that point, Mark, this is the newest marine sanctuary that the federal government just awarded.
Yeah.
They're only about every 5 to 8 years, and so Jefferson County is kind of the vast majority of it.
That's huge.
And it's supposed to also attract some additional tourism money, and it's underwater stuff more than on top of water, but also there could be a visitor center and museums and things of that nature, so
That would be
more
great.
family-friendly things.
And not an aquarium like we're building.
It could be.
That's a huge cost
The one in
overrun.
Alpena, Michigan is the last one they did, and it's more maritime oriented with regards to learning about schooners and steamships and things that sank, and then you can go out and dive them and
That's
things of that nature. So it is interesting because there are a lot of people that like to also go underwater as well as stay on top of water.
One last thing, just so everybody in this room knows, I've never seen a group pull together and all be moving in the same direction as this group, as your working group. We go back and talk about Leanne and I, it's so impressive. There's nobody like sniping anybody else. It's like, how do we all do this together? How do we help each other? How do we support each other? It's been really nice to see. You guys are very, very lucky to have those guys pulling the oars for you.
Mark, is the group to try and solve the housing issue? You know, I go back to when Fort Drum had this issue, and they came up with something called 801 housing, where there was some taxpayers' dollars that flowed through the developers to get out and build apartment units. Today, those apartment units in every little community around the county are godsends. They've all gone to the private sector, and they've all accommodated a lot of the population expansion. Can the Micron, I mean, why, I look at Adams, every one of these little communities with their infrastructure in place can accommodate another 30-unit apartment complex somewhere in the communities. Is New York State, can they help in that endeavor?
New York State would help, but I think the biggest thing is you got to get the developers first. And that's why we brought up in architects to meet with Marshall, because they're really well connected with a number of developers. And I think that's a good place to start. And don't forget, we've only been meeting, 6-7 months?
Yeah.
You know, and we've made, if you think about what I just read off that we've done with the map, with the tourism, with the housing, with getting with McMahon, et cetera, working with the state. I mean, Scott's been talking to the second floor constantly about Micron and what we can do up here to provide for them. A lot of progress made. Even the housing is always foremost in every one of our meetings. You know,
That's a big piece. And as well, I mean, the type of housing for Micron, I think it's a lot of duplexes, some single family, but absolutely.
Same as Fort Drum.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
I think you were more or less done or not.
Yeah, I'll be done.
Okay. And you seated time for manufacturing and marketing, or is there other point? I mean, between all three
Yeah.
committees, if there's some things that are important that we need to
Not
put out, just don't want to spend an
Yeah.
hour on this meeting if we don't need to.
just from the market, I just want to mention one quick thing. Yesterday I was at the River Area Council of Governments meeting, presenting on the sort of what we're seeing here in Jefferson County, as well as sort of what our thoughts are moving forward. It was a great program put on by the Tug Hill Commission. There was a really great Lewis County contingent. Most of the folks were from that area, a couple people from St. Lawrence County. But I just wanted to mention that one thing. It was their Economic Visioning Summit. It was a great program. They host it every year. They have one every year. And just wanted to mention that. I presented, had a great discussion. It was great.
Okay.
How many people? How big of a problem?
About 50 people there.
50.
We'll kind of do three things. Robin, I think you lead all of these, the ARPA, where we are, and then you can go through the grant recommendations, or if somebody else has to lead that part.
Yep.
25, 26, 27 of our
Yeah,
board packet.
And we've had some, as you can see, we've had some reimbursements. Then
Mhm.
we've had several calls and people are working on their projects, so you can see more activity next month. So we're moving forward to get those monies back out to the community, reaching out to them. Going on to the one that we have is the Scrub Hub. And they are a small business client of ours. They sell hospital garb and everything. And they've been in business for years. And one of the things that they do is they go off-site to like Samaritan, Fort Drum. They just went to Fort Drum and had over 450 people at their event. And their racks are falling apart. And that's what this is mostly for. Plus their laptop is 15 years old. So they're, upgrading their equipment to make them more efficient. So that's what their, total project, as you see, is only $5,930. We're going to cover 80%, which is $4,744. So I think it's definitely a good project for them that will fall under our small business productivity.
They couldn't, there wasn't, they'd be eligible for up to 10, right?
Right, and they went through and they're very specific, detailed
Didn't
every
need it.
line item. As I said, you can go to 10, nope, this is what we need, this will make our project. Yeah, absolutely.
The racks were originally hard to sort of justify, but as was described to us more about the way that they deploy these things off-site, how much easier and quicker they can get set up. So I know that for the first time, like racks, I mean, how does that make one productive? Well, it makes you a lot more productive, when you have to put these things together every time you. So.
Any
They've
questions?
never received a grant before.
No, I double
Okay.
checked, went right through that.
Very good.
I thought you did, no, they have a loan, had loans with us, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
they
gonna
had
say,
not
I remember
received.
the name.
I do.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's what I was first like, I'm like, didn't you get a grant? No, because what they thought they felt they needed, and they thought at the time, there's other people that need it, so they said, well, we won't participate. And then they reached out, how is it? I go, well, our money's almost gone, and that's what they asked for.
Do you need a motion to?
Yeah, I was gonna, once we're done, if we can have a motion and a second, and then we'll vote.
Yes, on the motion.
A motion, second. Any other questions? And the question before us will be to approve this. So if there are no other questions, all in favor to approve, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? It's approved.
Awesome, thank you.
I guess that leaves us with adjournment.
Also moved.
Okay, second? No?
Second.
Okay, good. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
We stand adjourned. And we'll go to next
See you,
meeting.
sir.
Thanks, guys.
See you, Greg.
Well, Marshall.
Call the meeting, or call to order our Jefferson County Industrial Development Agency meeting. May 1st, we've already done the pledge, the privilege of the floor. Have a guest?
Yeah, can I just take 2 seconds?
You've muted him, Marshall. You muted him.
Yeah. 506
It was you too.
8615. Can you tell us what your name is, please?
They're muted.
There, I don't know.
See,
I did.
unmute and it won't do it? Oh, okay.
Okay, just,
Okay.
we have a guest up there, but
Okay, so we have minutes on, I gotta open my board packet, we have minutes on page 3. They've been received and reviewed, and if so, a motion to accept them as presented.
So moved.
In a second,
Second.
we have a first and a second. Any other questions, discussions, comments, or changes? Barring that, all in favor to accept? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Treasurer's report.
if I can just really quickly, it's Mr. Contino.
Okay. Perfect. Hi, John.
They don't, that's a
Page
question.
6.
They don't need to identify themselves.
They don't have to, no.
No, they don't have to, but we can ask.
Yeah.
It is open meetings. Page 6, Paul.
Treasury's report, the only really one thing I wanted to point out is under the operation expenses legal RLF program, we're starting to see the costs of our actions with Convo
Mhm.
being paid. To give you an idea, it's not cheap, but it has to be done.
Mhm.
The month-over-month balance sheet looks in order with expectations. There's nothing new to report on any of the micro loans. They're in the same position, Colleen's, Cherry Tree. We are getting some payments from Painful Acres. At least they haven't just stopped altogether.
I got word from Colleen. We did receive a payment yesterday, but she emailed me, said she's sending in another payment.
So that'll be then back to 3 months behind?
Yeah, right, because they're 5 months right now.
So we're entering the season where they're gonna have an.
Yeah, I mean,
income
they're
stream.
open again, so I mean,
Right.
hopefully there's
But
revenue and money.
other than
Not the
that,
best amount in the world, but
nothing really jumped out at me unless somebody else noticed anything. But I think the legal fees are gonna continue to grow.
And I will say later on, I'm gonna suggest we go into executive session to get update on 2 defaults and 1 change. But that's if the board decides.
So that's my report unless people have questions.
I mean, is that a motion to move your report?
If I can, yes.
Yes, you can. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any other questions or discussions? My only comment is we're 200,000 already in the hole and we're only 4 months into the year. So hopefully we start collecting some fees for,
Well,
Default money.
we're gonna have a closing on,
yeah, I know there's some things coming up, but
Marshall and I, last night, we submitted for the Northern Border Grant, 500,000. And that, it says it could take 3 to 4 months. We're also submitted for this morning after the meeting, almost the 83,000 for the DASNY grant for the business park. And then as soon as it's fully complete, we'll submit for Empire State Development of 371, I think, grant that we should be getting that 3 to 6 months.
The first one, where was that money? What was the scope?
Northern Border,
Yeah.
it was 500,000
For what?
for the business park.
Business park.
Yeah, all these grants I'm talking about, it's the business park by the airport.
Just wanted to make sure. Okay, that's what I thought.
I don't recall if we voted.
We
No,
did
didn't.
not.
Okay, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Alternative energy, Paul.
You'll see the minutes from our meeting. We had a lengthy meeting and I'm just gonna summarize several things. One is we learned that there's 2 prospective projects that will be entering the ORA's system possibly soon. One is a wind turbine project in the town of Worth, and the other is a large solar project in the town of Rutland and part of Village Black River. And we received someone, I forget who, had correspondence from the Village of Black River that they opposed that, which leads us to basically what the gist of the meeting was. We're trying to find a way to have a central clearinghouse for pilot tax if they're going to be discussed. So we can get away from developers trying to play one community against the other in the 487. I brought up that I think it's time for the county to get out of 487. Further thought that may not be appropriate because it would affect small residentials and potentially agricultural, solar, or waste to energy systems. So we may have to revisit. One of the things we talked about is we may need to have the ability to do easier alternative distribution of proceeds system set up, where we may have to, schools have a problem with the end of pilot and the tax cap. And Ryan was very clear that they aren't opposed to having alternative distribution schedules where they get more upfront, less at the end, so that delta is there. And I still have concerns, even, when you're distributing 400 grand a year to a school, potentially one of these large projects, and a district like Sackett's might have a 2% cap of $100,000 a year. So I don't know how you're going to deal with it, but it's something we're going to have to do. So we may want to revisit our UTEP, because currently any project that is large is already a deviation. So, and you may have a town, like you take the town of Orleans, that has no or a minimal tax rate. They don't get anything out of a statutory distribution. And to avoid getting into host community benefits, you may want to talk about doing a different distribution. And the county is going to have to revisit their current policy too. So that's basically it. It's a way to, so we don't end up with developers getting past the taxing jurisdiction and not paying any taxes. And we've had that happen a couple times now. So read the minutes. Any input would be great.
They weren't in the packet.
They just got done this morning.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, but they're not in the packet.
I gave him minutes because he was doing it.
I haven't had a chance to read them all, but
Read them out loud for us.
The meetings were Monday afternoon.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
yeah, and there's five. It was quite extensive. The county is interested in coming up with, they believe, just to put it, that they want to see everything go through this agency.
Yeah.
They want us to be their the negotiator of the pilots in conjunction with all the taxing entities. So,
Okay, any other questions?
How large is the Rutland project? How many megawatts?
100.
So has it been permitted? Has it?
No, it hasn't. They haven't even filed their first
Oh, so that's.
notice of intent. All these are very preliminary.
As well as, and I did speak with the guy at the Honey Ridge, which is also 100 megawatts, which Paul had referred to in their letter, is expressing their displeasure with the project, is also 100 megawatts. And, I just wanted to, they too, I guess, lost my point there for a second. They too have not filed with ORES yet. Their notice to intent to file will happen in the next couple of months.
Marshall, Sarah?
Yes. Oh,
All right. John, if you're unable to speak, Rob can go through building and grounds, or you can lead it.
He is in Syracuse right now. He may have hopped on and.
So we'll let Rob, you prepared to.
I haven't prepared a statement, but I can certainly.
I mean, basically, we got an outline from.
Yeah. Well, I was looking at the DRC, so I guess I'm gonna have to run that one.
Which TJ work for?
Was that?
TJ?
Penn. Wasn't he the one?
Bernier Carr's
Was it Bernier
representative came
Gregor.
to the.
Yeah, Gregor
Gregor
Snyder.
was here.
Oh, Gregor.
Yes.
I was thinking TJ. Never mind. Another guy. They're both racquetball players.
Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, they're finishing up the project. Sounds like they may have some extra funds too, that I think there's a determination how to use those funds back to the project site, which could involve To me, it sounds like hydro seeding and those things.
Seeding and mulching.
Road bank improvement, and I think you're right, seeding and to get the road
Yeah.
I think
grades.
there were some, we're gonna do some trenching for future utilities.
Well, it
either
was-
across the road or next to the right
It
of
was
way.
discussed, but not knowing
Discussions.
where a building may,
Yeah.
you know, they had a proposed theoretical subdivision of the park.
Mhm.
And it hasn't, I guess, not knowing what's coming, it's kind of hard to put infrastructure in, but
No, I
we
think the
did talk
consensus-
about-
Yeah, we'll stay the course where we at with that, and then we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
You know, no sense in putting in more infrastructure where something could change. But it sounds like there's enough work possibly to use up the.
But I think they did their
Rest
final
of the money.
inspections, everything's good, and there's money left over, so there was a discussion about that, and then maybe future potential developments, is about what I got out of the meeting.
Yeah, then there was discussion of the current driveway. Yes.
Yes, the
Moving
paving.
that.
Yeah, whether to
going
pave it or put a bank underneath it. stuff
Yeah,
like that.
going to the intended entrance.
to
egress,
keep
whatever we're
DOT
calling it,
happy.
but Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, any other questions on building and grounds?
That's really all we talked about.
Under unfinished business, it's up to the board, but we have, some updates on at least one of the defaults and, well, actually both, and then there's another loan that there's been some minor discussion on that if we wish to have an executive session to discuss or not. I'll talk about it in public, but it might embarrass people, I don't care.
I would move we enter executive discussion to discuss pending litigation.
Okay,
And,
we have a,
I'll second
and
that.
personal financial data. There
Personal
is one that's a
financial
personal
data and
financial.
staff is welcome to
So
join.
basically, everyone except Sarah and Todd.
Yeah. Excuse me for a second. Sarah and Todd, Sarah is with does economic development for the town of Wilna, and Todd is with EDR, which is, they're gonna be, with us in the Deferiat
Okay, so
meeting.
they're in the next meeting.
So- Yeah, so Sarah and Todd, I'm gonna put you in the waiting room. We have to get through our executive session and then the civic facilities meeting, which does go pretty quickly. We're probably looking at about 20 minutes anyway,
Tops.
before we would be able to get started with the Deferiat meeting. I'm gonna put you in the waiting room, feel free to, to step away from your computer or what have you, but figure about 20 minutes or so, I think, probably, for us to get where we need to get.
Do we have a vote to go into executive session?
Yep.
So all in favor of going to executive session, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? So once we get no recording and put some people in the waiting room.
Yeah, she seconded
Okay.
They told me it happened.
it.
John,
You're in this committee, right?
I'm gonna put you in the waiting room, just,
Casey's on speakerphone or something.
yeah.
Driving in the car with covering a hobo or something.
Stop the recording one second.
I think some of our board was copied and possibly all were copied